Welcome to our lesson on fills. I think the first thing we should get into is what are fills. Fills are geometric 2D hatching patterns that help us distinguish, embellish, and decorate the elements of our project. They can help give us a visual image of the different materials that go into the project and represent those materials. They can be assigned to different construction elements such as walls, beams, columns, slabs, meshes, roofs, zones, and parts of objects. Or with the fill tool, they can be used as purely drafting elements. We can use them to represent areas that we don't want to render in 3D, to add shadows or other graphic embellishments, or to measure the area of a polygon. Fills that we have assigned to our various different construction elements can be displayed in our different views. And for most elements, we can select separate cut fills and cover fills. A cut fill being the fill that's displayed, say, in a section view where we've cut through a section of a wall. As vectorial hatching, these fills can be used to embellish our different project materials in the 3D window in the 3D document. In ARCHICAD, we have a predefined set of fills. You can access that here by double-clicking on the fill tool. And here's our fill selections. So I'm going to move that so that we can get a better view. And in these newer versions of ARCHICAD, we've got the fills broken down into solid fills, gradient fills, vectorial fills, symbol fills, and also new is image fills. And we'll take a look at each one of these and how they work. If we go into our fill default settings and down to advanced settings, we have the ability to choose a fill category for the purposes of model view options. We have the drafting fill, the cover fill, and the cut fill. Cut fill fills on the section of construction elements. So say we have a section that cuts through a wall. That wall section will show the assigned cut fill. The cover fill is for hatching on zones, meshes, roofs, slabs, and the floor plan. And the drafting fill are simple 2D fills drawn by hand in the model window, and they don't have any relationship with construction elements such as walls, slabs, or roofs. If we want to assign a fill to a construction element, let's take a wall for instance, we go into the floor plan and section option, and right here we can select our cut fill. We can select a cut fill background pen. Let's select a blue, and now you'll see up here the cut fill, which was previously gray, is now a blue color. Let's just make that a light gray again. If we go into the slab, again we have a cut fill that we can select. Say make that concrete structural. And we can select the cut fill background pen. We can go down here and click on cover fills. That gives us some additional parameters. We'll have to turn off use fill of surface material, and that will allow us to say select a cover fill grid of 16 inches to represent, say, tile. So if we click OK, we draw a slab, we've automatically got a fill placed on that slab according to the directions that we've put in the default settings. If we cut a section through there, and open that section, you'll see that the cut fill that was assigned to it, concrete structural, shows. Here I've placed several different types of fills on the floor plan. The first one selected is a drafting fill. If we go into fill selection settings, we'll notice that that fill that's selected is a solid fill, drafting fill. Here we have our lineal gradient fill, and we'll show you how that works a little later. And our radial gradient fill. And this is a vectorial fill. And this is a symbol fill, roof tiles. And new in ARCHICAD. Sorry you can't see this on the screen. I'll move this up here. And now we have image fills. And keep in mind that we can make our own image fills, solid fills, gradient fills, vectorial fills, symbol fills. They can all be created for any particular situation that we need, well, except gradient fills, but they will be adjusted on the plan. If we want to draw a fill, we select the fill that we'd like to draw. Say triangles. Select OK, and as in other tools we have several methods here, the polygonal, the rectangular, and the rotated rectangle. So select rectangle, just click once and draw it out, click again. Or the polygonal, we can go in and define the shape we like that way. Or the rotated rectangle, which we won't go over. We can also go into options, attributes, fill types, and here we can create a new fill, rename, or delete a fill, and all that's covered in a separate video. By default, ARCHICAD has Vectorial as the on-screen view option. So if we select a particular fill, and we go into View, On-Screen View Options, and come down here and turn off Vectorial Hatching. Now we've got a bitmap pattern. You can see that clearly here where we have the roof tile. Turn that back on. If we're printing or plotting these fills, it doesn't matter which way we have it on the screen, it will print as the vectorial, even if the on-screen view is set to bitmap. If we take an element that we can see in the 3D view, or actually let's demonstrate this by going into the 3D view. By right-clicking, bringing up the context menu and show all in 3D. Let's select a wall, for instance, and again right-click to bring up the context menu and select wall selection settings. We have some materials selected here. This is the default walls. You'll notice in this column here under default walls, we don't have any fill patterns shown. But say we were to select common bond. This material has a hatching pattern called brick common bond. So if we select this and then give it the OK, you'll notice now we have the material shown. Go back to the floor plan. Let's draw an elevation line. Now if we open up this elevation, we can see that wall has the hatching pattern that's associated with the material that we selected. If we go back to the floor plan, and say we draw a curved wall, and we look at that curved wall in the section view, you'll notice that ARCHICAD automatically, as we go around the curve, adjusts that hatching pattern. Another excellent feature in ARCHICAD, actually giving us a better perspective of that fill pattern. Alright, so let's go back to our floor plan. We'll take a look at some other things. And here we're going to look at setting the orientation of the vectorial hatching. First, let's pick a fill. We're going to go into an 18-inch grid. Click OK. So we've got an 18-inch grid here, say, representing floor tile. But what if we want to put that on a diagonal? Now, here we're going to show you a couple of things that we can do. First of all, we're going to click on Link Fill to Origin and select OK. Now you'll notice we get this little line here, which is going to allow us to adjust the orientation of this fill. I do that by clicking on the line. That brings up the pet palette. And when you want to select Move Sub-Element, here we're using our guideline to set this at a 45-degree angle. So that automatically turns everything into a 45-degree angle. We can reposition this down here to set the start of that 45-degree pattern. Alright, we've deleted that. Another way to work this is with the fill tool selected. We've got our 18-inch grid. We're at Link to Project Origin. Let's draw that in again one more time. We can select this, and we can go up into our info box, and here we can add our editable fill handle or our distorted fill handle. So what can we do with this distorted fill? If I click on one of these nodes right here and rotate that slightly, our fill pattern is going to follow the angle of that. I'll bring that back up to square. I'm going to do the same thing over here. You can see how we're distorting the fill. We have a slightly different effect if we stretch this out. Say bring that back in. So with the use of this tool, we can come up with many different variations for that fill pattern. Another thing worth noting, with the fill selected, if we go into fill selection settings and we click on show area text, ARCHICAD will automatically calculate the area of that fill. That works particularly good if we're working with a complex irregular object. Let's take our spline tool. And we'll go back to our fill tool. Press our space bar. And here we've created a fill pattern inside that spline. Now again, if we select that and select show area text and OK, here ARCHICAD has automatically calculated this complex fill as 2,088 square feet. We can grab that node and move that text. We can select it and change the size of that text. So that's an excellent way of calculating areas in ARCHICAD. Another thing I'd like to take a look at is working with gradient fills, and this is a lot of fun. We're going to bring up a front elevation of another project. We're going into the fill tool, and we've got a linear gradient fill selected right here. We'll select OK, and then what we'll do is we'll draw out a box defining the limits of the gradient fill. Finish with a click, and this is our gradient fill. Right now we have green and white. We can select the fill once it's placed and change that blue and white pattern to say, or that green and white pattern to say blue and gold. With it selected, you'll see down here we have a little handle, and with that little handle we can affect the tonality of this. We can bring it totally off the screen. We can rotate it. Making for some very interesting effects. Now if we delete that and we go back into our fill tool and we select our radial gradient fill and OK. We'll do the same thing. We'll draw a box around our project, defining the edges of that fill. And over here you'll notice we have a little circle with an X in it, and that'll help us define, by grabbing an edge of that circle, the tonalities of this. This circle affects the outer color tonality, and this circle affects the inner color tonality. Again, with this selected, we can change our color patterns. We can make that look like the sun, and we can make this look like the sky. We can bring this circle back down, and this one back out. So again, by playing with these different parameters, we can affect many different We can also grab the X in the center of the circles and reorientate the whole thing. So you can see that with this gradient fill, we've got a great new feature that will enhance our 2D views and give us tremendous new opportunities to come up with different views for our project. So another thing I'd like to touch on is working with image fills. So if we double click on the fill tool, we've got wood parquet selected. There's only 2 image fills preloaded with version 12, so for demonstration purposes we'll work with this one right now, and I'll show you how that works. We'll click OK, and this could be an image of some kind of stone or castle rock. Let's select our polygonal drawing method. And we may want to place image fills in various different places on the project. I can't see it right now, so what we're going to have to do is go up to our arrow tool. We've got the wall selected. We know that image fill is there somewhere, so we'll select Tab. Now we've got the fill. Select that fill, and on display order we'll bring that to the front. And now you can see how we've put an image fill on our front elevation. That doesn't look so good, so I'm going to delete that for now. So regarding image fills, they're available only as drafting type fills. Therefore, the image fills can only be applied or drawn with the fill tool. They can't be applied to construction elements.